Good morning, everyone. This is Bharath reporting for Revsportz from the city of Vizag, ahead of the eagerly awaited final ODI between India and South Africa. As we saw in the first game, India went on to defend a target of around 350, but unfortunately for them, in the second match, they slipped to a loss. So the series is very much deadlocked at 1-all, and that is why we expect a frenzied atmosphere outside the cricket stadium here in Vizag, which isn't very far away from here. So ahead of the series decider, what could be the main talking points? As we noticed in the first and second match, in Ranchi as well as in Raipur, the dew factor made its presence felt. Fortunately for the Indian team, they were able to defend the target in the first match. Unfortunately, they slipped to a loss in the second one. So the toss outcome or the toss event certainly became a crucial factor in especially the second match. Although India went on to lose the toss in the first game as well. Actually, India have been losing the toss, especially in ODI cricket, over a period of 20 odd matches. So that is about the toss event. Let's look at the dew points. Just to exemplify the point about dew making its presence felt, in the second game in Raipur, the leather ball was changed as many as 4 times by the on-field umpires. Actually, KL Rahul, the India ODI captain for this series, asked for a ball change as many as 6 times. That tells you the dew must have been quite sizable. Even if you notice, the Indian fielders were using the towels all the time, right through the second innings. That's again an indicator. The third indicator obviously is the ball just skidded on. The ball just skidded on to the bat, and the spinners were not able to get any kind of grip. And even the fast bowlers, they just had to use cross seam at best. I don't think you can use seam up in those conditions. So to some extent, it negates the threat of the bowlers bowling in such conditions, in such climes. Having said that, a lot of credit has to be given to the South African batters for playing with a calm head on their shoulders and overhauling the target. It's never easy to chase down a monstrous target of 359. So let us give some credit to the South African batters as well. Here, coming back to the dew points, even if you adhere to science, it tells you that from the months of November to February, you will get enough dew in places like Raipur. Unfortunately for the Indian team, who is on a losing streak when it comes to the toss event, the dew factor will again or is expected to make an impact in Vizag. We could see it during the Women's World Cup, where India slipped to losses against Australia and South Africa. In both those games, the dew was quite substantial. So that is about the dew factor. But what can the home board do in such circumstances? I understand why day-night matches are held, because you see, they also want to maximize the viewership, and that can be done via day-night matches. So I don't expect them to hold day matches from now onwards, or at least in the last 18 odd years. But having said that, they can prepone the start timings to about 12. That can negate the dew factor to some extent, and also you can maximize the viewership to a large extent. That is one thing that the home board can do in such circumstances. The second point is to use chemicals like IND-SA 50, and IND-SA 50, which is produced by Amway, did quite well during the Men's World Cup in 2023, where it negated the threat of dew to a large extent. So that can also be employed by the home board. Yes, it perhaps costs quite a bit, but I don't think for state cricket associations it really will take a lot to buy this IND-SA 50. That's about the home board. So and what they can do in such circumstances. Let's look at the India-South Africa final ODI as well. For starters, KL Rahul hope that India will win the toss. Maybe India can do some black magic or something on those lines. Obviously, that's in a light-hearted manner. Leaving aside jokes, one thing they can do is perhaps call head or tails consistently. If you call head or tails 4 or 5 times, then probability will tell that at least once you will win the toss. So that is about the toss event. And as far as Vizag, the conditions are concerned, it is quite pleasant. Obviously, there's no threat of rain, but it can get quite humid as the day progresses, and in the evenings and in night, you expect some dew to again make its presence felt, and that is when the Indian bowlers will, if India loses the toss, will again be tested, or they will be put to a litmus test. Yes, what can the bowlers do in such conditions? That is another point that can come into the equation. One of them is to use the cross seam ball. The other one is to perhaps use a lot of arm deliveries, arm balls as a spinner. You just have to keep firing it in, darting it in, and hope that the batters don't get underneath it, and the cross seam can give you a little bit of unpredictability, randomness, if you're a seamer, that is. But still, the ball just skids onto the bat, and it's very difficult conditions for the bowlers to really come good in such climbs. So that is about it from Vizag as far as the dew point is concerned. And just as an Indian cricket fan, if I put my hat on just for a second or two, hopefully India will win the toss for once. Thank you again for taking your time out and listening to this video. Thank you.